Hello and welcome to the free podcast. Jack Grant here. This topic is going to be hosted by Aaron Ford. We're going to have a special guest brought on, who Aaron hasn't done his best to keep it quite secret. So I think me and Wallace have an idea of who it might be, and then I think it helps us identify what kind of topic we're going to be looking into. But yeah, Aaron, if you'd just like to give us a little insight into what you have planned for us in this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So today, like you say, Jack, I've brought on a special guest, our first one since we have started off our podcast. And the special guest today is Jordan Mellon. Jordan Mellon is a football agent. Seems no better time to introduce him. And I'm going to just shoot over the first question straight away, really. I want to just ask you to introduce yourself and to give us a brief description of the general role of a football agent.
Yeah, hi lads. Can I just say before we start, what an absolute pleasure it is to be your first guest on the show. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Someone had to be, mate.
I don't feel quite special now, but yeah. So the role of a football agent, obviously, on Sky Sports, is quite a grey area. We're known as the dark side of football, if you like. But in simple terms, Aaron, the role of a football agent is to guide and manage a player's career. From, you can sign a player from when they're 16, and then the plan is you can help and guide them through their career until they're an established professional.
Brilliant, thank you. And sort of getting into it, how did you come about becoming a football agent? In terms of, was there qualifications, experience, or was it networking that got you there? What got you on the verge of becoming a football agent?
Well, I think the first step I made towards becoming a football agent was realising that I was probably slightly, and that's probably being kind of myself, too unfit to be a footballer. And then it was, what can I do now? So obviously I did a degree, and part of my degree there was an element of living in Spain. And obviously, as you know, my family are all in football. My dad's a manager, and through, like you said there, networking and contacts, I was able to connect and meet those the right people to be where I am today. And just ended up along the right path, finished my degree, and was offered a job with, obviously I'm fluent in Spanish, so that helped in the market I work in as well within football.
Brilliant. Just quickly on that also, I know you mentioned that your dad is a football manager. Firstly, where is he at? What's he doing? And secondly, I was just wondering, for a youngster out there who wants to become a football agent in the future, what's one thing you'd say to him or her?
Yeah. So firstly, my dad's Mickey Melon. He's He's the manager of Tranmere Rovers. Obviously, for those people who don't know football, that's a team in League One based on the Wirral. So he's had a good few seasons back-to-back promotions there, so he's doing well. And then your second question's a really good question, Aaron. I actually get a lot of people messaging me asking this question. It's a difficult one to answer because, believe it or not, there's actually more registered agents than there are professional footballers. And when I say that to you, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Because how can there be more agents than players?
Yeah.
And you don't actually today have to do anything to become a football agent specific. You pay an administration fee, and you're then a licensed agent, which is one of the big problems we've got with agency work now.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. Is that all on that point? Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna like highlight the point now. So it's obviously must be so competitive then, because it's such a saturated market for agents. Trying to nab players when you've got you'll have so many different agents coming after the one player.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. There's obviously different markets, and the key is finding your niche in the market so that you stand out and and have a chance, really, Jack. Because, like you said, then it's a absolute war out there. I mean, you go to under 16, under 23 games up and down the country, and there's 20, 30 agents standing there watching the same player, wanting to sign the same player. And this is a player who you might not necessarily make any income off for ever, for that matter, or for a long time.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question a bit? Like you said, there's no qualification needed essentially to become a football agent. And you just paid the admin fee. Do you think there should be something in place then? Because that is quite crazy. If you think of the careers that there'll be, look yourself, for example, you've got a few players. You're in charge of these young men's careers and futures, and you can affect their livelihood with your decisions. So don't you think there should be some sort of either qualification in place or regulation in place around it?
Yeah, it's a really, really good point, Luke. And obviously, years ago, so I think, I don't know the exact date and year, we're probably speaking 15 years ago, maybe slightly sooner than that. You did actually have to do an entry exam to become an agent. It was a multiple choice examination, and obviously part of that is you had to study the rules and regulations of what being a football agent consisted of. For some reason, it was really difficult to manage that. FIFA, which is obviously the top governing body of football, passed it on to the FA, kind of said, you deal with it. And then the FA kind of did the same and just pushed it to a side, and then just scrapped the examination process. And now anyone can pay an admin fee and become an agent. But it's true, like you said, Luke, how can anybody, so you guys here today, as long as you haven't got a criminal record, you could go apply on the Whole Game FA website and become an agent. It's absolutely gobsmacking.
And
I think go on, sorry.
No, it's just out of curiosity, how much are the fees? Like, is it something that would deter you from doing it unless you're very committed, or is it something that's perhaps cheap and you could just be like, well, I'll do it, see if I like it, but
600 quid.
600 pounds.
600 quid.
Wallace is tucking into the whiskey already.
Sorry, I wasn't making that much noise.
I could hear you slowly trying to screw the top off and then putting it back on.
Making my mouth water there. Actually sounded.
I've got a Guinness glass. We've gone really off topic here. I've got a Guinness glass and it's pretty much full. Half whiskey and half Coke. So yeah.
Oh God.
White and Mackay blended Scotch whiskey. So see how it is.
Well, we're not getting any sponsorship money, so you need to drop that.
I know.
Just to clarify, we're not endorsed by whiskey companies.
And we're not alcoholics, and we don't approve of that as well. We don't approve of alcohol abuse, but it's our times in lockdown, so.
All right then, mate. Just on the next sort of role of football agency, I do think personally that the role of football agents are changing. Like quite many years ago, agents really were just the middleman, I suppose you'd say, literally, of making a transfer, and that's literally it. A transfer was there, and you would be the guy who would make that sale between the two clubs and the player. But I think now that it's recently evolving into sort of you're becoming a personal advisor, I suppose, and you're seen as sort of someone who's financially advising these players who are millionaires who don't really know what to do with their money. Do you think it is like that? And do you think you have become more of a personal advisor than rather somebody who is just there to make the contract?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Aaron. I mean, I think the role of a football agent, in simple terms, is it's always been to be the middleman. So let's not forget that the agent acts on behalf of the player, but also has a duty and an element of work on the club side as well, because the club wants these players. With regards to the point on, are you a personal advisor? I like to keep it a lot more simple than that. My job is on the football side. I'm not qualified to be a financial advisor. I'm not qualified to do tax returns. What I can do is advise my player on the best people, a selection of people I've worked with in the past, on what on who to choose in that area, if that makes sense. So the agent is there to advise the player, but ultimately it's on the contract, negotiating the contract, and on the football side. Obviously now you're right, it branches out into all other areas, of course.
Okay. Also, you also on that point, I came across a story not so long ago actually. Ranieri, he once called one of his clients, Mario Balotelli, as you well know, Melon. Mario Balotelli once called up Ranieri when his house was on fire, and Ranieri calmly told him to call the fire brigade. And I was just thinking of that story, just like how crazy is it that a player, whilst his house is on fire, would call up his agent. That just shows the level of trust that they have between these players, these young footballers, and their agents.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit and tell you some of the stories all night of phone calls I've had and experience I've had with the players. And like you say there, a good agent, I feel, and obviously that takes us right back to the first point that I made, where anyone can go and pay the fee. It doesn't make you a good agent. It just means under the umbrella you're classed as an agent, but you're not really. You're just a bit of a plastic agent. A good agent tends to be close with the players, and it is crazy that it's a shoulder for the players to lean on. They take a lot of the stick away from the player and shield the player away from that firing line. I mean, how many times in Sky Sports do you see that the agent's the bad guy? But the agent's role is always to make sure the player's perceived in a good light. So if that takes throwing yourself under the bus, that's what you've got to do as an agent to protect your client.
I think that's the biggest thing as well, isn't it? I think agents are portrayed to everybody that they are the bad guys, that they're greedy for money, that money's the be all and end all, not actually caring about the player's welfare, like you're saying, is the main thing, and being that shoulder, not shoulder to cry on, but that somebody to lean on, and like anything, being the one that's there for anything they want to discuss, whatever, rather than just being money.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, Wallace, go on.
No, I was going to say, great point. It's like Jack mentioned, like all you ever see of agents on telly, or the perception I get as a fan, is that agents are just, but obviously we know it's a little bit different, but these top agents, you just think, they're just greedy fuckers, and they just want to bring these clubs down, and they just want the most money for the client. They don't care if the player, or they just want the most money, want the most commission. So like, what's his name? Mino Raiola. Yeah. So Mino Raiola, like Pogba's agent, he's portrayed so badly, isn't it? And even though I thought he sounds like an arsehole, but I was looking up on him, and all I've heard about from his players are saying he's such a friendly and loving bloke that and he actually cares. So
Yeah. So that's a good. Obviously, both of your points there. Obviously, using the Raiola example again, agents are perceived to be the bad guy in the media, but let's not forget that these players, they're basically products of big organisations. They're basically a product to a big company. So it's like a MacBook to Apple. That's what these players are treated like, and obviously definitely. You don't see it from the players' side and the agent side. It's on Sky Sports. It's always from the club side, the club's perspective, and you've nailed it on the head there, Wallace. These players under Raiola, they're all happy because Raiola does the best for these players, and best
he's
agents,
taking all the
he takes all the stick, but he's not bothered because his clients are happy.
Yeah.
Now,
and he's pocketed a few million.
Of course, yeah. I mean, he's got his rewards and he's made his money because all his clients are happy. But I'm telling you now, further down in that's only the top bracket. Only the top 10% of agents really make decent income.
Yeah,
I think now, Melon, sort of a metaphor to put your work is like an iceberg, really. Like the hard work that you put into the players is sort of at the bottom of the iceberg, which the public and the media don't really see. I've heard examples of what you've done with a few of your clients when they've had tough times. Like, they're all human at the end of the day. But it's not really what the public see. Like, we see the large clubs and the agents demanding large amounts of money. And also, we're all football fans here. We've also lost a player too, a good player who's gone to another club, which also decreases our view of looking at you as agents, because of reputation. So how do you sort of try to minimise that, like the media and the public portraying you?
Aaron, it's not a case of minimising it. It's just kind of accepting that's how it is, and it's never going to change. I'm not fussed of how we're perceived in the media, as long as I go to bed at night and know that I've always acted and put the best interests of my client first. You said then about a club when you see a player leaving and it's all the agent's fault that the players left. No, the players left because A, the players wanted to leave, and B, it's probably to a bigger and better opportunity. Now, if I flip that on the head, what about these players that the club just dumps and says, no, we want to wash our hands with that player, we've had enough? It's the agent now who's picking the player up and finding him a new club.
Yeah, if you get put into the bump, it works two ways. I think, like you say, the club will always release whatever to the media, which will always paint out the agent to be the bad guy, but it's actually the agent who will have the actual individual player's best interests at heart. Like, if a player's been thrown into the bomb squad and he's just playing under 23s football when he's at the peak of his career, say, it's like, it's so wrong. But you see it happen. But then on the flip side, you have players that are quite happy if they're on a lot of money, which is, I think, I'll say, from what I've observed at Blues, there's certain players that are probably went into the Birmingham under 23 side, who were first team footballers, but they're on a lot of money, but they obviously fell out. I'm guessing they'd fell out over something for this to happen, because as fans we're all questioning why on earth certain players wouldn't be playing. But these players aren't pushing for a move either. They're quite happy to sit back and just take the money. Yeah,
I mean that's a fan's perspective, which I understand from the outside, but obviously my aim to come on today was just to give another perspective of so a clear example of a player that's been bombed into in the 23s is it's a player who might be on a big wage. He's not going to play at the club he's at because the manager at the time's decided he's not going to play. But then the club's also saying maybe the player wants to go out and play on loan, but the club then might be saying, well, no, you're only going to go out on loan if a club pays you full salary. Well, if you're on a big salary and you're going to go out on loan to a club, that's your level. They're not going to be able to afford your salary. So there's always loopholes. But Jack, you're right. There are players who are just happy to sit tight and make money. And there's a lot of bad agents who put making money first, which is why in the media maybe there is this perspective of certain agents.
Yeah.
Melon, I've got a question. Well, I've got two actually. I'll come back to the dad agents a bit later on. That was one of my questions earlier. But in terms of like you said about players that just get dropped by these big clubs, they go, the contract's run out, fuck them, we're not renewing it. We'll let you go on a free transfer. You're not even worth anything. Now, is that quite hard to find? Let's say, for example, someone gets released from Everton. Let's say, is it hard to then try and find another Premier League club to get them? Because, all right, Prem's probably a bad example, but like a team on a similar level, because you're thinking, well, hang on, that club has let that player go. Let's say it's Jack. We'll use Jack as an example. Let's say Sheldon have let Jack go. Because in fact, this could work.
Sheldon would never let Jack Grant go.
No. Well, torn ACL, come back, not the same player.
Well, that's it. Like, you've got an injury, maybe they don't know how bad it is, and we've gone, do you know what? Look, we've let him go. And you'd be thinking, well, how can I get him to another club the same level? Does that perception of the player go down? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you mean, and the simple answer to that question is agents aren't miracle workers.
Yeah.
And one of the key things, well, my approach as an agent, and I like to consider myself somebody who does things the right way, is managing expectation. So by that, whether it's a young player, a senior player I'm taking on, it's not saying you're going to play for Bayern Munich. No, it's I'll always act in your best interests. So to answer the question directly, if a player's been released by a club and finding a club of the same level, if a player's been released by a club, there's obviously a reason. So it's very, very hard. It is hard. It's a minefield out there. It's very difficult, but it's just trying your best. It's doing all you can with your contacts to help that player.
Then this is a good point. On the flip side of that, so obviously it's hard to then, like you say, there's a reason they've been dropped from that team and they've gone on a free. So it's hard to obviously get at that same level. Is it? So you think, right, let's say they were League One, you might say, right, we're going to have to go to League Two, boy. Like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. But I don't know why I said boy. That was a bit weird. But is it hard managing that player's expectation to say, listen, you can't stay at the level. Let's drop down a level for now. Build yourself back up, and trust me, we'll do our best to get you a bit further.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's use you as an example, Wallace, in your line of work. So, Wallace
I thought you meant my footballing career.
Oh, God, no, we won't get bore the listeners with that.
FIFA, that is.
But you're in the banking industry. You have a few bad months in the banking industry, and the bank turns around to you and says, "Look, Luke, you're not performing very well." And you think, but I've just had a bit of a bad couple of months. Something might have gone on away from work that they're not aware of, which has had you distracted, and you're focused again now, and you can get back on with your work. But the bank have made their mind up that they want to go in a different direction. Obviously, employment laws, that's not possible, but it just as an example. It is, because you turn around to me, and if I was your agent of the bank, you turn around and say, "But I'm good enough to be what I'm doing here now. I'm good enough." Yeah. And let's not forget the egos of footballers as well. They have big egos. The media, the fans, they're hyped up with these big egos. So it's very hard, and it's a very cruel industry, football. I mean, it's an industry we love, but it's very tough. It's ruthless and it's cutthroat. So it's very hard to manage those players, and it does take the players' pride, and does take a big kicking when you have to tell them stuff like that, and you could end up losing the player over it as well. By the way,
yeah.
Melon, please. I know you just said that it's the player's behaviour that you've also just noted there. I think that's a good point to get onto the next topic. That sometimes it is the player's fault and not the agent's. Like,
of course,
we all know Ranieri he's very disliked, and he's made a lot of money off his clients. But
so, do you mean Raiola? Sorry,
Raiola.
Yeah.
He's very disliked, and he's known for making a lot of money for his clients. But sometimes it's actually the player's behaviour which has prompted him to make the decisions he's made. For example, you look at Balotelli, City, Milan, and Liverpool. 3 big moves in all short period of time. Ended up in difficult circumstances in the end of it, but that was 3 massive payouts for the agent. But it was the player's behaviour there.
Yeah. So my answer to that question is, right, let's look at football as a whole. Do we all agree that there's far too much money in football? The salaries are far too high. That's just how it is, isn't it? That's football. It's the industry we love. Now, the point I was making earlier is, obviously in the media, it looks like it's as easy as Raiola picking up the phone and going to Liverpool. Do you want to sign Balotelli? Yeah, we want to sign Balotelli. Right, we'll get him there on Tuesday at 5 o'clock. 10% commission for me. That's 5 million in my back pocket. No, it's not as easy as that. You've just said you've got your phone calls at 5 in the morning. Being an agent, it's a lifestyle. You have to live with your players. Phone calls all times in the night. You're there supporting them. They almost become part of the furniture. It's not as easy as just turning up and signing the contract. That's for me anyway. There might be other agents that do that, and I can clearly see Raiola doesn't do that either. Obviously, he's been the example we've used during the podcast.
It's probably because he's the most famous.
Yeah,
I'd say most famous.
Yeah, well, it's him and Mendes probably the top two.
Yeah, Mendes,
people would know.
Yeah. There's not many. I mean, no, I know you won't take this offensively anyway, but we're talking them two are the top football agents, aren't they? They've got a select group of clientele that make them millions, and like you said earlier, a lot of agents won't make that much. Like yourself, I doubt there's like the players that you've got. I wonder how many people know their name at this moment in time. Obviously, a few of them are going to go on to be international superstars, hopefully. But so we get free Champions League tickets and shit like that.
Well, I think you've had your fair share of tickets off me already.
Yeah.
We've rinsed you. It's all you're good for.
So other than sort of knocking down my client list there, Wallace, what was the point?
My point was, you know, I don't know, the whiskey's gone to my head.
He just wanted a little dig at you about the sound of it. Bloody hell.
All the nasty shit you've done to me at college.
Yeah.
No, I was kind of I just wanted to highlight the kind of, obviously, that everyone thinks of football agents and they are these money grabbing bastards at the top and they're rolling in it. When really, like you say, the majority of that's only like probably the top 5%, maybe not even, probably less than that.
Look, I'll give you a quick overview on my personal opinion on it. There's the top very small percentage who make the millions and millions.
Yeah.
Then there's a midsection who, you know, a couple of Premier League players, a couple of Championship players. But most of the agents now are organisations anyway. Mendes is the name of a business. And then you've got the rest of the agents. So literally, I'd say, like I said earlier, 10-15% of the top end, they're the ones making the money. And the rest are time wasters. And these are those ones that are turning up to under-16s games, selling a mum, a dad, a young lad a dream. And that's the problem. They're selling them a dream. They're never going to make money out of the player. They don't have a clue what they're doing because they've just turned up and paid the money. And that's the full circle of why some of these agents get a bad press.
We'll get on to the topic of parenting and that role later, because that is also an important topic. But I do want to just stay on the topic of money. For example, if I go into a shop now and I go and buy a Cadbury's chocolate bar, I've just entered into a contract with the shopkeeper, and I don't need anybody at all to assist me in doing that. If I just sort of resemble that with football, if you look at when Everton wanted to sell Ross Barkley, for example, to Chelsea, Chelsea needed a player. Everton wanted to sell him.
Did Everton want to sell him?
They wanted to sell him at the end when they
was that not forced by Barkley in the end?
When they offered the figure for how much it was very, very, very going one way. 15 million was how much he went for, and it was an easy target for the end of it. But the 7 million the agent got for that's only half the transfer. I'm just like, it's such an easy. Why do we need you?
Barkley only went for 15 million.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm quite surprised at that.
So you say, why did he need you? So, an agent. Normally, the going rate of what an agent makes is 5% of the player's salary. So over the total course of the contract. So it's the total amount the player's going to earn in that contract you signed, 5% of that figure. So just think how much Barkley must have been earning. I mean, I don't know if the figures, I'm just going off what you said there, Aaron. And what the agent's done there, if Barkley's dad goes in and negotiates that, I mean, he's probably going to get an all right deal over the line because it's Ross Barkley and the good players sell themselves.
But
what the agent does is adds value to maximise what the player's going to earn.
But he's not adding value in making the contract happen, though, because that was, in some cases, it was inevitable that it was going to happen. My point is that why should he receive 50% of the transfer fee if a contract's going ahead already?
Yeah, but it's separate to the transfer fee. You shouldn't be looking at the transfer fee. It's of the salary that the player's going to earn over the course of the contract. And, you know, what the agent's done, that agent, I don't know who Barkley's agent is off the top of my head, but maybe signed Barkley at 15. There's been a role model, supported him, bought him his boots, been there all the way through, negotiated his first pro, his second pro. Everton aren't nudging, so he's used his relationship to manoeuvre that to get him to Chelsea and maximise his deal. And that's one case of, that's one success story where an agent's made a lot of money. What about the thousands and thousands of cases where an agent invests so much time, so much of his own personal money in a player that doesn't even have a professional career? And that's the industry we're in.
Even when the player decides to sack the agent off.
Is
that true?
Yeah, you see that all the time. Another agent comes along, promises him the world. Normally not true. The player leaves, and the agents. But that we know that, we accept that's the world we're in. And I do get that the commissions are very high, but that's only in a select few deals. We're talking about Ross Barkley's an England international. That's a top end deal, and you're right, you know, that is ridiculous money going to an agent. I'm not going to say it's not, because that would be me sounding very arrogant and ignorant. It's a lot of money. But
sorry, can I just ask, so like you said, that 7 million, so don't look at the transfer fee. So out of that transfer fee, the 15 million goes straight from Chelsea to Everton. The agent doesn't actually see any of that. Am I correct in saying?
No, not the transfer fee. No.
Okay.
I did see some reports, and what I was looking at the article, it did say that the deal was 15 million altogether, but Chelsea had to pay 7 million out of that 15 to the agent of Ross Barkley. Now, I don't know if the sources are correct, but that's what I read.
So it might have been an £8 million transfer fee.
No, but what they're doing is they've done the maths of the transfer fee to what the commission they'd have to pay, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay.
So who would pay the agent in that case then? So it's all Chelsea, 100%.
Chelsea would pay the full commission, because it's called duality. It's quite complicated, but it's really strange. You don't see this in any other line of work. Chelsea want the player. Barkley goes to Chelsea, and you get paid by the club and the player. Technically, the player never pays the agent. It's all Chelsea that's paid that. So Chelsea have paid the agent to negotiate a bigger deal off Chelsea. It's crazy, but that's how it works.
That's correct.
That's bizarre.
Just on that point, FA guidance is that agent fees should compromise and no more than 3% of the value of the transfer, although they have no authority to get involved in a contract.
Sorry, you just cut out a bit there. Something about 3%.
Yeah, sorry. FA guidance is that agent fees should comprise no more than 3% of the value of any transfer in the country. However, they have no jurisdiction to get involved in a contract.
Oh, yeah, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's a guideline, isn't it? 3%. But if you're talking about, let's say, an agent who's got a League Two player on £800 a week, what would be 3% of their salary a week?
Are you asking me?
What was that again?
Half the whiskey's gone. Fuck that.
So what I'm trying to say with that is we're focusing on the top end, like your Ross Barkleys when it comes to millions, but an agent who's got a player in League Two on £800 a week, who gets say 3% of that deal, that's nothing. I think it's like £30 a week.
It's £26 a week.
So what I'm trying to say is, that's why I said that instead of focusing on how much an agent should get, let's focus on sort of arbitrating it properly.
£24 a week. Sorry.
Yeah. Let's put an exam back in and get rid of all the I don't want to say crap agents. I want to say the time wasters, and just focus on. I didn't have to sit an exam. I just paid the money, but luckily I'm in a company and organisation where I learnt it properly. But I'd be happy to go and do an exam.
Yeah.
And that's what they should do. Focus on that instead of what they're earning.
It's not just the exam for me. So I'm looking at it from the players' protection kind of side.
Yeah.
Would you have a criminal record check, for example?
You do, yeah.
You do. Okay.
And a CRB.
Okay. What did you say, Aaron?
Your spot toilets.
No, yeah. I couldn't even think of CRB yet. But look, I'm thinking that's very important, because you could get someone who's thinking, do you know what? I've got a bit of money, but do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to swindle some players, man. I can dress the part, I can act the part, I've got the chat. I can pay for my license, and I'll promise them the world, say I know all these people, and you could start, I don't know, invest your money. Why don't you, because you're in a position of power and influence. Why don't you start investing your money into this company? Is make it own the company, fucking swindle the player, shit like that. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I think there needs to be more safeguarding around, especially these young players. Like, again, we're talking about the top few percent. But, like, if you think about, like Phil Foden, for example, he's at Man City. He's earning how much? Sancho's probably on a good way. He's over at Dortmund. You've got... Sterling's still relatively young. Sterling's younger than us, for fuck's sake.
Is it?
He's like, what is he, 24, is he?
I think he is, yeah, 24.
Yeah, so, do you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be... And your focus is playing football, and you might have sacked off college to play football at academy level, and maybe not have paid enough attention at school. So how can you be expected to make big financial decisions like that? You know, people are gullible, so
and I think like you say, that can happen. Obviously, you invest in this company and that company. Sounds a little bit like a Netflix series, Wallace, but I can get where you're going at with it. And, and that's the problem. It's you're in a position of power. You're right. You've nailed it. So you've got to act on the best interest, but. You know, the clubs are quite savvy, and a lot of the clubs I speak and work with are very good, and they know that a player will eventually need an agent, and they know the good agents from the bad agents, and can sort of help, because it's advising and helping these parents. Imagine Wallace, your son, which
it'd be a fat little fuck. Yeah, he'd definitely be centre back.
Let's say your son grows up and becomes AFC Sheldon captain one day. He's going to need an agent, but
definitely.
The everyday person's not going to know how it works. So you're vulnerable. So you need advice, the right advice and guidelines, and the clubs are getting really good at it now. But it's not going too far the other way against agents fully, because there are good agents. There's select few, but there are good agents.
Yeah, definitely. I think that needs to be highlighted as well. I think there's enough press about saying how bad agents are. There's definitely some good agents out there. And would you say the clubs do kind of push the lads that might say, like, for example, if I was a first team coach, and let's say I knew you, not on a personal basis, but all right, Melon, he's a decent agent. He's always been fair with us. He looks out for the lads, even if they've left us. I'd say, listen, that Melon's an all right agent. Why don't you go with him, or have you spoke to him, see what he's got to offer? So do you find that at clubs?
A club can't push a player onto an agent.
No. But
they can advise a select group. Like if a player's parent or a player goes to the club and says, "I've been approached by this player," then I'd hope that they'd give a good reference of me, because I always do things the right way.
Yeah.
But if a player was going to go in, and it's better for the club, really, if a player doesn't have an agent, because then they can
of course.
They've got the bargaining power then.
Of course.
You can pay them pittance. You can pay them nothing. You know what I mean? You can give them a really shit contract. I I heard Peter Crouch talk about his first contract, and I think didn't he say, it was the geezer at Spurs now. What's his name? The owner.
Daniel Levy.
Daniel Levy, he's a tight cunt, isn't he, from what we've heard. He is. So hopefully, Melon, you don't have to work with him. But from what I've heard, he's a tight cunt. And anyway, Peter Crouch goes down, and obviously Levy's saying, don't bring your old man. Just come down. You don't need an agent. We'll sign you up. He signs him up, and he give him a really shit contract or something like that. I might have got that wrong with Levy.
Yeah, no,
completely wrong.
I think Crouch was buzzing with it at the time, weren't he?
Yeah. It might be QPR. Sorry, Daniel Levy. I've got that completely wrong.
I mean, he's built teams off nothing, hasn't he, Daniel Levy? Poor guy, and Wallace has just absolutely slaughtered him.
Well, that's it
I've built teams from nothing. You can't look at it. Sunday League,
true.
Second Coronation League.
As an owner of a football club, is an absolute dream to have running the club for you, because he does very well financially.
Just as an example to that one, Wallace, that you said there, I recently read Zlatan Ibrahimovic's book. I think it was from like 2017. Really interesting. When he was at Malmo, they got him to sign a deal
with Arsenal.
No, at Malmo.
Oh, okay.
And basically, they told him he didn't need an agent to put full faith in the club, which he did. And then, obviously, he went to Ajax, was it, from Malmo?
Yeah, I think so.
So when he went to Ajax, he didn't do it with an agent. And he talks about in this book, and obviously, Zlatan's agent now is Raiola, and look how well his career's gone. When he signed that deal from going from Malmo to Ajax, Malmo told him what contract to sign, playing terms, and he quickly realised when he got into the deal was done, went into the changing rooms at Ajax and realised he was the lowest paid player. But he went for like a record fee from Malmo. And what had happened was Malmo had taken all the money out of what would have been in his playing contract, took all the money.
It's disgusting.
Really?
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say with that is the clubs aren't always the good guys either.
No, of course, definitely not. Yeah.
Is that why he's invested? Is it Hammarby now that he?
I mean, I don't know, but I think he held a bit of a grudge against that.
Yeah, because I think it was at Malmo where they destroyed the statue of him outside.
I believe so.
Yeah. Because I think he's like a part owner of like one of the rivals. I think it's Hammarby. Yeah.
So he always held Malmo in high esteem, but I think it was certain people involved in that he was very disappointed with, and that's where, like you say, Aaron, a good agent would never have allowed that to happen.
Are there any this might be really stupid. Are there any footballers that represent themselves? So, like, imagine Ibra now. Does he need that agent? What is he now, like 38, something like that? He's probably seen enough of football, seen enough football contracts, knows a bit about business, that he could probably handle that himself. And he's quite intimidating. So you pay him what the fuck he asks.
Yeah, but what does a footballer do for a living?
Yeah, he plays football.
Kicks the ball around. That's his job. Raiola, since he took Raiola on, done a great job. Why would you get rid of him? He's always going to maximise. And like I said, I always keep going back to adding value. That's what the agents do. Good agents add value.
True.
Protect the player so the player can just focus on playing football, which is what the player wants to do.
I think there are exceptions. I think like, probably someone like Zlatan, especially Ronaldo, in fact, especially Beckham. I mean, Beckham's a brand now. He's built himself into a brand.
His agent helped to build that brand of Beckham. To answer your question about the agent, does a player, can a footballer represent himself? Traditionally, they did. The agents only come in about 20 years ago. Before that, the players did their own contracts, and the players were always done over, really. And that's how the agents crept into the game. I suppose
as more money's come into the game, that there's been that requirement, hasn't there?
Yeah.
Footballers would have been on pretty general salaries before all of this.
Sorry, if you listened to our last podcast, Melon, I don't know if you listened to it about Johan Cruyff.
I did. It was very interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Did you hear a bit about the ticket sales at Ajax when he signed when he was like in his late 30s? And he said, so basically anything over 10,000 tickets, like, you know, if we sell 10,000, you get to keep. Anything over 10,000, we split down the middle. Nah, that's a superstar. Look, Beckham could have that kind of power. Only certain players could have that kind of power.
I mean, all players have clauses in your contract that you wouldn't know about. Not ridiculous clauses, but
I don't know, I've heard some mental ones.
Yeah, but it's not as easy as just going along and say 20 grand a week. Yeah, 20 grand a week. Let's sign it. 20. No, you put a bonus here, X amount of appearances, this, and through experience, you learn how to negotiate, what the player's value is. So obviously I'm totally defending agents here, but like you say, your Beckhams and your big players, your brand, your household names like that, they sell themselves. You don't need to call up and go, do you want to take Beckham the way he hits those free kicks? No, what you do is you add the value for a Beckham. That's your job with those sort of players.
I definitely think we could go into contracts now. I definitely think that's going to be after left. We'll leave that for another time. Because
we've gone down quite a dark alley there, aren't we? With the,
I know.
Probably bored the listeners there with contracts.
I've seen a Championship footballer's contract myself, and I spent about an hour reading it, and I was shocked. Like, I was shocked, and it was quite a basic one, but I was shocked. But no disclosure here on who it was and where it's in it, so don't worry.
The only one I've seen.
That's not one of the players I work with.
I was just gonna say, actually, that is completely separate. That is my personal life apart from Melon. I didn't see it for you. You're actually. In fact, it's a good question. You never really you never tell us about like any players. Well, you tell us about some of the players that you got. I won't mention them here, but like we look for the young kids that are coming through. And you've never ever mentioned about a deal that you've worked on, and we tend not to ask because we know you're not going to say anything. But is that integrity of, you know, keeping your word, keeping your silence?
Yeah, it's just confidentiality, really, isn't it?
Same with any walk of life. I think you know you have certain things that happen that have to remain. You know, like I say, doctors, for example. Now they're not going to go around chatting about some embarrassing growth that one of the patients has had to everyone in the pub, are they? You know what I mean? There's a certain element of
And in my employment contract, I actually have something regarding to the confidentiality. I mean, just basically though, Jack tells me one day what he's earning and he'd like to earn a little bit more. I'm not then going to go for a Nando's the next night with my other mate and say, do you know what Jack earns? You just don't do that, do you? Yeah. And that's just on a personal level. So imagine on a professional level.
Hello, do you know what? We've never asked you about wages. I've never heard you talk about wages either. And now I'm dying to ask you. Now you fucking mentioned it.
What are you asking me here?
I don't know what he's asking here. I don't know what he's asking.
The whiskey's nearly gone, boys. No, sorry. Anyway, Aaron, have you got another topic, another point that you was going to ask Melon? I feel like
sorry to cut across you there, Aaron, but he's basically slaughtered my list of players, and now he wants me to disclose my yearly earnings.
Yeah. Not your personal ones. I was just now thinking about all these players. I was thinking, fuck me, I wonder how much they really earn. Because, all right, fuck it, Aaron. Ignore your questions. I'm going in. So
poor Aaron's like,
obviously,
20 minutes.
I know. Let's say, I don't know. I'm just going to pick a random player. Let's say Xabi Alonso. He's on 100 grand a year. No, 100 grand a week. A week. Sorry. A week. Yeah. All right. Let's say we're on about Jack now. You're the agent for Jack, right? Jack's earning 20 grand a week. Now, obviously, you've negotiated that contract. Would you also negotiate other commercial contracts outside of football, such as advertising, boot sponsorships, things like that?
Yeah, very, very good question. And in a standard representation agreement, which is the contract you have between you and your player, which gives you permission to deal with that player's career, basically, as a footballer, there can be a clause in there which includes commercial. Now, normally that's always included standard in every contract to the commercial agreement.
Okay. Is there a limit on what you can?
Yeah, the maximum
on what kind of?
I don't know, but the standard rate across the board is normally 20% for commercial.
No, I didn't mean the rate. I meant what kind of advertisement you can do. I was going to say like anything. So you can do like a Pele and do like Viagra
So Wallace,
pills.
if I was your agent now, I'd be calling up Hugo Boss, getting you on their adverts. I mean,
I think Giacomo. I think Giacomo's more.
Extra large.
A Richmond sausage advert.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm less Cristiano Ronaldo, more fat Brazilian Ronaldo in his later days. And that's me. Yeah.
No, but obviously anything commercial, so brands, so Adidas, anything like that, really. I mean, as imaginative as you get. I mean, again, only the small top sector of players that will apply for anyway. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, a player in League One isn't going to get a Hugo Boss deal. No offence.
No.
He's not going to be on the adverts, is he?
No, that's a good point. But for example, let's say, like you said, only the top. You know, David Beckham's going to model for Hugo Boss. Messi's going to model for Armani or whatever. But could you not get like, you know, your local League One player to go down the local door shop and sponsor them? Not our local door shop, boys.
Well, the best door shop I know around here is Flair Doors in Marston Green. It's the best place you can get your doors.
It's Flair Door Centre. Yeah,
I'll tell you what, you're dropping a lot of advertisement in it. Was it White and McKay whiskey, Flair Doors?
It was White and McKay blended Scottish whiskey.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, so it was.
It was all sophisticated and professional. It's just slowly.
We're gonna have to start negotiating some advertisement costs if we keep dropping these.
To be fair, I'm looking at this bottle. It looks like this company would have gone out of date because it's that fucking old. I reckon my granddad was born with it.
Aaron hasn't spoken for a while, and as his invited guest, I'd just like to check in and see if he's okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Got onto it. I do like a good discussion, but you want to get onto a new topic, Jen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Obviously, parents are a huge part of your role, building the level of trust with the players and their the parents or their guardians. How do you sort of maintain that you do have a lot of power over these children, man, and like they could go on to make it pros, and I suppose like we've said, like Raiola treats his clients as if they're a family. Is that something that you do?
Yeah. So me personally, I'd like to stick to a smaller group and be very hands-on, supportive and personal, like you say. But it all comes down to, like I said earlier in the podcast, it's managing expectations. So it's not telling a 16-year-old that he's going to play for Real Madrid one day, because you don't know that. But what you can guarantee is that you'll support them during their career in everything possible. And if it does come to them going to Real Madrid, then you're well equipped to support them in that.
I've heard of a few examples where you've told me that you've had to sort of take the family out as well as the player to wine and dine, I suppose. Is that more part of the job, or is that more building the trust with the player and their families?
Yeah, I mean, it's like with any business, when you're trying to secure a client or a deal or a big contract, whatever it is, part of that process is socialising, wine and dining, building that trust, so they can see you on a personal level and get to know you. Yeah, it's very important, that side of it. But it's not just saying to a parent, we'll buy you a car or something like that. It's ridiculous. But just showing them who you are on a personal level, who they're going to be working with.
How frustrating, though, is it for you to work hard with that player and get, 95% down the line, you think in your heart that you've got that player who's going to be one of your clients, and next minute, mum or daddy's just gone, no, there's someone else, son, or you can do better, or there's someone else out there, he won't treat you right, and that's it, done, crushed.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, touch wood, that's not happened to me, but it's a competitive, constantly changing industry, and you never know what's around the corner. That's part of the excitement of it, but you have to understand that these things happen, and if that does happen, and you've always acted with the client's best interests at heart and done the best job you can, then what can you do? These things happen, don't they, with all jobs?
Anything from you two on that?
Yeah, I think parenting, like, particularly, like, so for example, mums and dads involved in their son's career as a footballer. I do think they, for example, like you mentioned, none of our parents would get involved as much in our career, what we were doing when we're 21, 22, 23. Whereas I do think footballers' parents do, because it's a bit of a bigger deal, I suppose. But at the top, I'm talking the top level, but also on the bottom, like, you know, if you go down the leagues, a lot of young lads have committed their whole life, and football's not just a job for them; it's an absolute dream. And most lads grow up to dreaming to play football, don't they? Like we all did.
Yeah.
And, you know, unfortunately, some of us are too fat, some of us are too slow, and some of us have got too injury prone with ACLs. And yeah. so between us, we got fucking nowhere. Melon's the closest one as a football agent.
But then I saw him play left back, and my word, man was blowing. This is this is meant to be when he was at his peak as well.
That was his peak, yeah.
Yeah, I've never saw a man blowing out his arse as much as him.
I know. I don't know what he's talking about, to be honest.
But yeah, I
get what you mean. I totally get what you mean there. But what you've got to remember is everyone has different personalities. 100%. Everyone approaches his parenting differently.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of them might be living the dream through their kids. A lot of them will be rooting for their kids. They're in denial about how good the player really is. And we're only talking about good cases here. What about the players who get to 19, 20? They've been at academy since they were 7. They've been tunnel vision towards becoming professional footballers. They get to 20 and the club just goes, no, we're not going to keep you on. The club gets rid of the responsibility, and, you know, what happens to those lads then?
Yeah,
that's the other side of it.
That is a great point, yeah, because it feels like we've known people in that position. I've known friends, older brothers, friends,
good players as well. A lot of good players,
excellent players that have been dropped at that level. And like, you hear stories from some pros, top level pros, who say like, "Oh, we've seen this person training, and they were unbelievable." And then when it comes to it, they've end up being released and things like that. Now, my question I was going to ask earlier. Obviously, you're not a club and you're an agent, but I was going to talk about like parents that are agents, like particularly, let's say dads who are agents, who, let's say, for example, let's say Jack's a footballer again, and we're going to use his dad as an example, although his dad knows his shit in real life, so it's fine. So
he helped me with my World 11 the other day.
He did indeed.
Oh, and we will leave that question at the end. At the end, we'll drop that question just for our listeners. Yeah. To have a little think about, and then they can we'll discuss that at the end.
Yeah. But like, for example, let's say Jack's a player, right? You're his agent, and Jack's good. He's fucking good, man. Like, could Premier.
I don't know.
What about your sales pitch?
He's
effing good, you know.
Is that what he goes into the meeting room and just sits down with him and goes, listen, he's good. He's fucking good.
He sat down with Jose Mourinho. Why should I sign this lad? He's effing good. He's effing good.
He's good.
Take him
good. On. Look at him. Look how he sprays the ball. Anyway, if you was his agent, Melon, you might say, right, granted, you're good. I'm going to say, let's sign for Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Now, if his dad's an agent, he'll be like, I'm fucking signing for Crystal Palace. Son, you're the next English Gaza, you are. Obviously, that was meant to get loads of laughs because Jack is the next Gaza, obviously. Peace ourselves. But no. We're going. We want someone like Chelsea. We want Champions League football for you, and you're.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So as a parent, you might think, go on. Sorry.
So
go on.
are you on about if I'm an agent here working with a parent, or if I'm a parent who is an agent?
I think I'm trying to say, like, do you think parents tend to be a bit more delusional and they'll aim higher, and that could be a shortcoming?
It depends on the parent. I mean, I've seen it all in a short space of time. I've seen parents who have taken a player from one club to another, a 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old player for money, quick fix, and it's not worked out. I've seen players at 16 through the parent that have moved at a young age and it has worked out. I've seen parents who have a different approach. They put full faith in the club, or the club developing that player, and the player's broken through into the first team. I mean, there's players locally that we've seen that's happened. All parents are different. It is true that what I always say when I speak to a parent is, no one cares about your son more than you. Yeah. You're the parent. Whilst respecting that, I don't tell you how to do your job.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it in the best. But some parents, for whatever reason, maybe it's their experience with agents, maybe it's what they've read. And, if you have had bad experiences, you might want to protect your son, and you think you're doing the best for your son, and then you manage it all yourself. Or you might be living your own dream through your son, and you're like, I want to take my Johnny to Chelsea. Not it's like you say.
Definitely.
So it's really hard, and it would be on a case-by-case basis, Wallace. That would be what I've done is given a few examples of how it is. It would be on a case-by-case basis.
See,
the stuff you see is incredible.
My dad would be absolutely terrible and great to work with because he ain't got a fucking clue about football. So he'd be like, "Oh yeah, Newport County. Oh, that sounds brilliant. That does. Go on, you take him there. Then if it's yeah, and then in fact, Jack, I think your dad would be the best man because he knows your shit. So it'd be like,
I'm actually considering taking Mooney on as a player liaison. I just think he's just a positive. It's what you need, isn't it? A bit of Mooney in your life.
A bit of old school.
It's what you need.
Bit of old school.
Well, look at you with that glass. Just getting on to the facts, because I'm a man of facts. Just on to our next couple of topics, man, and nearly finish you. Thank you for your time still, pal.
No worries.
Characteristics. One example, you know all the big agencies, big players, Balotelli, Pogba, Lukaku, Verratti, Ibra, all very, very well spoken players and controversial players, very like to be in the media, also in the limelight. But then I also give you sort of an example of the opposites. The recent Sunderland Till I Die, you seen Josh Madger and how he sort of was hiding away from his agent, sort of the opposite really, like very introversial. What do you think? Why do you think that players are so different like that? Some are very upfront, wanting to make a move, very clear about it, and some are just hiding away, shying away, and let the agents deal with it. What's the difference? What's the advantages?
I think it all comes down to, again, A, the player's personality, B, the situation that player finds himself in. So you use the example there of the case on Sunderland Till I Die. I watched that. Very interesting, but again, it's from the club's perspective, which I get. I mean, what a great football club Sunderland is, by the way. But from the player's point of view, just talking about from the player's point of view, if you're an employee of a football club and you get asked an interview question by a journalist as to whether you want to stay at that club, you don't answer when you've still got 2 months or whatever it is to the next transfer window. Yeah, actually, I want to leave. You don't say that. It's managing the situation. And again, the agent, a good agent, who I know his agent, a very good agent, would protect the player. No, my agent's dealing with it. Because that's how it is. The player's focusing on the football. Don't ask me questions about my contract situation. I'm focusing on my football. And that's the best way to do it. Obviously, a lot of other players are more vocal in the media. But again, it could be a tactic if a club's not budging. It could be a tactic to maneuver your way out and get a move. You just don't know. It's always on a case by case basis.
Sorry, I haven't watched Sunderland till I die, especially the second season. So, could you explain what happened with that player and the agent, Aaron or Melon, either one of you, briefly?
Yeah, Aaron, do you want to give your perspective on it, and then it might be good for me to give it from my perspective, you as a fan and just viewing that TV show, because I know a lot of people have seen that.
Yeah, of course. Josh Maja, striker for Sunderland, doing very well towards the start of the season, coming up to the January transfer window. And he was scoring a lot of goals and they were doing pretty well. But there was a lot of talk in the media of him potentially leaving Sunderland and going to another club. Now, Netflix put a lot of emphasis on sort of videoing him, asking him questions about when do you think, do you want to move, or where do you think you'll go, or blah blah blah, and literally every answer was just very just shying away from it, really, not really answering the question, just saying it's my agent. The agent was literally the word he said to every answer.
Okay.
Now for me, I think that's quite poor, because I think that you should be upfront if someone asks you a question and just be honest. It shouldn't be up to someone else to make a decision for you as a professional player. But Melon might have a different view.
Can I throw my 2 pence worth in before Melon even says anything? So as a footballer, like, actually in that case, if someone's asking me, do you want to go, whatever, I would probably deflect onto Melon and say, yeah, my agent Melon's dealing with it. On 2 sides, because actually, one, I might want to stay at the club and the club might offer me more money or whatever. So I'm kind of sitting on the fence, really. Or if I say my agent's dealing with it, yeah, another club might come in for me. If I stay there and go, right, I am staying at Sunderland, that is it, I'm not moving. Well, okay, yeah. Sunderland don't need to offer me a new contract with improved figures. I'm thinking, being selfish here, and a new club's not going to come in for me, like a better club, let's say Birmingham City, fucking best in the Midlands, you cunts. And not going to come in with extra goal bonuses, or if they do, they could
That's got to be a
minimum
word
wage
on the podcast, surely.
No.
Sorry. I think we've just got to ban him from the whiskey.
Yeah.
But do you know what? That aside, taking that disgusting word you did just use then, that was a very, very good point.
Thank you.
Like you say, Aaron, I get yours from a fan's perspective. You're thinking, as a Sunderland fan watching that, what would you think? I get that as well. Now, me speaking specifically from the player's perspective, at that stage of the interview, you might not know for definite what's going on with the situation. You might know there's interest from X club, but you're still a Sunderland employee. B, you're not going to be that stupid to say you want to leave the club where you're still going in to train every day and you're scoring goals for, and you've got teammates around you. But then, like you say, you don't then want to. I've seen players in the past who've been like, "I'm staying. Nothing's going to change," and then a month later they've signed for the club.
Like
look
Delph
at
at Villa.
Well,
Delph at Villa is the perfect
As a
example.
Villa fan, I didn't really want to bring that one up, but yeah. So
you also don't need to lie to the podcast about being a Villa fan as well.
Yeah. Also, we Barnsley, Blackpool, Celtic.
But yeah, my point with all of that is, look, Aaron, can you tell Horse, who's not seen it, where the player is now?
Yes, he's at. Is it a French club? Isn't he? Sorry, I forgot the club name.
Is it Bordeaux?
Bordeaux. Sorry,
League One club.
He's at Bordeaux.
Yeah.
How?
He's doing well.
How'd you get a player from Sunderland? An English lad, yeah, or not?
He's Nigerian.
He's split.
Okay. He's played a game for Nigeria. But this is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So he's gone.
That's a massive improvement, though. That
he's gone from League One. So he went in the January window last year. In fact, this January window just got. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it might. He's gone from League One to Sunderland, who might have got to the Championship, which they haven't now, to a top-level French team.
Yeah.
Now, Sunderland fans will go, yeah, but Sunderland's a big club, and I get that. I get that. You have to sympathise, but you have to put the player has to think about his best interest, because if he has a goal drought, who's the first people to turn on you?
Your own fans.
So you've got to get a balance, and you have to put yourself first. It's a cutthroat industry, and fair play to the lad. He's gone and got himself a great move. Fair play to his agent, and now he's playing in the top flight in France.
Boys, tell me if you disagree. So now you've told me he's Nigerian. What was it? You said he was split nationality. What was it? French?
English Nigerian.
English Nigerian, was it?
Yeah, I know he made his Nigeria debut recently.
I'm guessing not Nigerian heritage, but born. Okay. I'm guessing. Yeah.
Is he from Sunderland? Is he what do they call him? Not Georgia.
If I'm not, I actually know. I think he's from London.
Okay.
Then he was at Palace. Left Palace, went to Fulham. I think he was released by Fulham, went to Sunderland, and then Sunderland. He had a great broke through from the youth team.
Okay.
And then has got a big move. So if he's had the same agent through all of that, think of the workload the agents have to do as well. So 90% of agents earn their money. Now the top bracket's ridiculous, of course it is. But this case is great. I mean, if you look at it, it's not great for Sunderland because they lost their striker, and he's ended up moving on a free. By the way, I think that's a lie. He went for 1.5 million because he was into the last 6 months of his contract, I believe. But that's the flip side. I mean, there's all different cases in football, isn't there?
No, and fair play. Like you say, actually, it's good. But the focus back on the agent, fantastic for the agent to get him from Sunderland, who's a League One team, even though he's firing on all cylinders, from what you say. Fair play. He's got him at Bordeaux. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, top tier French league. Yeah, very good move. Excellent move that is. Do you know what I mean? I presume his wages are going to be higher. So for him as an individual, he's earning more money. You know what I mean?
Since I think he's made his debut for Nigeria, so it's all come together for him. Obviously, there's times when players move and it doesn't work out, but is that not just life in general?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely fair point to be honest, man. And it was a big move, and in the end of the day, it got him better than where he was. Just finishing up now. Just last sort of question to you, Melon, specifically. This is just one which I sort of wanted to know for my own sort of knowledge, really. Champions League winner, La Liga winner, Copa del Rey winner, 18 goals with Real Madrid. Happy for you to say his name if you'd like one of your clients when you come to discuss. But what I want to know is when a player goes through the ups and downs, for example, scoring on his debut at a club when he comes over to England, compared to when he makes mistakes during a negative period in his life and ends up leaving the stadium during a game. How do you have an influence on that player who's a professional footballer, whose head's in football mode, to get him to get his mind at rest, I suppose, and to get him on a level-headed playing ground?
Yeah, obviously that one there is a great quiz question. So we'll leave that to the listeners to see if they can work out who that player is. It's not my client personally, just to clear up. It's a client of the company. Now, to answer your question as simple as possible, it's not getting too high with the highs and too low with the lows. It's staying steady through the middle. So if you score a goal on your professional debut, you're not getting too high because you've got another game and you've not got anywhere. And the great players are the players that win a Champions League, but that's not enough. The great players are the players that it's never enough. They're always striving for more. But you can't get too low with the lows or too high with the highs. That's what I'd always advise the players. You just can't, because if you get too carried away, then you won't stay professional. If you get too low, then your level drops. So it's about staying in that middle ground and balance.
Yeah,
that's what all these good players do. They're just very balanced. You look at James Milner. You've seen the Twitter account, Boring James Milner, because he is Mr. Balanced, isn't he?
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Professional he is.
Well, yeah, he's a great professional, but my thought, is you need to live a little as well. I don't think the man's ever had a sip of alcohol. You know what I mean?
No, I reckon he has.
Apparently he hasn't.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. I just surely you'd have that you'd be like, oh, I'll have a sip of a pint or something.
That's how much he's put into being a professional footballer. If that's what he's done to achieve what he's achieved, fair play to him.
Do you know what? Despite playing for Villa, I do really like James Milner, and I think he's got to be respected for what he's done in the Premier League, and like you say, his professionalism.
And then a lot of the party boys you see who do get high with the highs, they tend to be sort of like cult heroes, and they're that good that they get away with it a little bit. Gaza's the example.
Legend.
Yeah. So, to answer your question, Gaza. Question there. You just
play like Gaza.
You can't get carried away. You just can't.
Okay. Super. That's me done, gents, unless you two have got anything to add.
Okay, so I'll finish up with 2 points really. So as you're all aware, we've moved to 2 podcasts a week whilst we're on lockdown. Now, if you can leave a comment whether you like it to continue in this manner or whether 2 a week's too much, just basically to ensure we can keep the viewers up. The listeners up. But yeah, it's entirely down to what you guys prefer. We're happy to carry on doing 2. I was also thinking if we broke it up into a football podcast and then one random topic of podcast, just so it doesn't become oversaturated by. Now, obviously, we're 3 lads that all love football with our passion, but we'll have listeners out there who couldn't give 2 shits about football, so we kind of we're thinking it might be best to keep it separate. If you could just let us know what you think. And then the final question, task that I have for you all to have a little think about is what myself, Melon, Wallace and Aaron were discussing yesterday, is to come up with the best footballing 11 that have played since 1966. You can pick any formation, providing it's like 3 at the back minimum. And these players cannot have played for the same country or the same club. And that doesn't mean at the same time. That means at any time in their career. So if you've got someone in 1970 that played for Man U, for example, you couldn't then go and pick Rooney later on, whatever, because he can't have played for the clubs at all. When you have a little look into it, it's a lot more difficult than it sounds. So if you can put
I was going to say, hand on heart, the hardest football winning question. It took me about 2 days to wrap my head around it. But great fun. So please give it a go. Like you say, Granty.
Jack, just to ask you a quick one there. Is that a competition you're planning to do?
I'm not putting my hand into my pocket for any prizes.
No, I was going to say I'd be happy to provide some tickets to the game or something for the winner if you can make it into a competition.
Wow. Yeah, do you know what? I'll tell you what.
So
I think that will help with the viewers.
Is it going to be an AFC Sheldon game across the park? They're for free, you cheating cunt.
What game would you be thinking, just to entice them in?
What about any Birmingham City game next season?
Ooh,
go on, lads. Go on.
I think they might be put through enough pain having to listen to our podcast. But,
I was going to say that me, Jack, and Aaron might end up winning, so that might be a bit corrupt there.
It's hard. It is hard, but why don't the listeners send it in and you 3 can vote for your favourite?
Yeah. I think depending on who gets the best, the prizes will be relevant, because it's pointless if it's a Villa fan today having Blues tickets. Yeah, so if we have a team they support,
then I'll help with tickets for that particular person.
Fantastic.
That's a great deal. That is.
So
on that competition, if you can submit your teams into the comments, the best 11, they cannot have played for the same nationality or the same club. Will be.
Granted, and it was best since 1966.
Yeah.
So you can't throw like Puskas in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So we'll be judging that, and let's see what you come up to, and we'll see you all on Sunday, and then from there we'll decide whether we're going to do weekly or twice a week, but we'll see how we go. So see you all on Sunday.
Thanks for having me, lads.